All right, so I've been thinking a lot about this idea of being alone. I think I just did a little talk about that. It's funny because then the corollary of you can only count on yourself, and I'm like, wow. First of all, if you could only count on yourself, you'd already be dead because you were born helpless and couldn't feed yourself for, well, literally for 2 or 3 years, you know. So we think about that. Somebody got you through your first 2 to 3 years, and then generally somebody got you through the next 10 years or so. The other thing about you can only count on yourself. So it's back to that very Western idea of you're born alone, including Buddha, right? Life is suffering. You're born alone. You have to meditate in order to be okay with life. Very interesting. And none of these communities and cultures, the Abrahamic cultures, the Indo-European, want to think about the fact that we're all connected and that there's hundreds, if not thousands, of cultures that, for the most part, have been uh, taken over by the fearful, greedy cultures um, who, out of this, in my opinion, out of this fear of being alone and of fear of death, have to control the world, right? And it's funny because all our heroes are Achilles and Alexander the Great and Genghis Khan and General Patton, all these killers. We don't have heroes who are lovers, and even if we do, it's usually men who are seen as taking advantage of women. Finish your sentences. Don Juan, Lothario, Bill Clinton, John F. Kennedy, right? So the idea of connection and interdependence and community is very scary to people who grew up uh, with this idea of aloneness being the whole thing. Um, so back to you can only count on yourself. Really? Who's the person that lets you down the most in your life? And I would look at my life and say, well, when I've been let down, it's usually because I didn't honor an agreement with myself or I was unable to do something. And I look at um, when I had the big contretemps with my family. Yes, my brothers did not meet the expectations I set for them. Of course, I look back and go, well, they were unrealistic, but I didn't meet the expectations I would have set for myself if I'd have been outside. I would have not have behaved in the way I did if I was taking care of myself. So I really want us to think about um, getting away from this whole idea of I'm the only important person in the world. And it's this other thing of don't care what other people think. I'm like, why not? Are they stupid? Are you the only person with intelligence in the world? Are you the only person with moral gravitas in the world? If you're doing something and somebody says, hey, I don't think that's right, you're really just going to be like, no, you're stupid. I know everything. I should do this. I find that very strange myself because I have people I really count on to give me a reflection from the outside world. So my impression of my humanness, and I think a lot of us are in this boat, is we have, because of the physical limitations of the human body, have a very limited worldview. Not because we're immoral or selfish or any of that. It's because here we are with five senses that we pay attention to, and maybe a few more that have been ignored and so have fallen into disuse by the majority of the population. We have a very limited view of the world. So when we're doing or saying or not saying things, it's really useful to actually have those people that you can count on to say, hey, this is what needs to happen next. Oh, look at the consequences of what you're saying you're going to do, or look at what happened. How do you want to help with things? So I do agree with that idle complaining gossip is not so useful because there's no solution. I learned this in my internship was everything I was saying about the leadership was true. What I was saying was making things worse. The way I was approaching the issues that were situational and not personal, a lot of them, life, world, people, I was making it worse by complaining about it in a way that was not useful. So I was the one making my life harder, not the outside world. Or the outside world was too, but let's think about who can you really count on? How do you increase the number of people you can count on in your life? And how do you accept the limitations of this iteration of existence where we're in a human body, in a human culture, with lots of limitations that if you're, a spiritualist, like, well, we came here and put those limitations on ourselves. Okay, well, we did do that then. Let's live with it. Or if you're more of an Abrahamic religion thing of our creator gave us these limitations. Either way, it's like, oh, we're here, we're in this together, and you may not be the only person you can count on, and you may not be as dependable as you think.